Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. We seldom realize, for example, that our most private thoughts and emotions are not actually our own, for we think in terms of languages and images which we did not invent, but which we were given to us by our society. Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun. This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now, and instead of calling it work, realize it is play. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple, and yet everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim, you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do, you will sink and drown. Instead, you relax and float. You are an aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. The menu is not the meal. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. Advice? I don't have advice. Stop aspiring and start writing. If you're writing, you're a writer. Write like you're a goddamn death row inmate and the governor is out of the country and there's no chance for a pardon. Write like you're clinging to the edge of a cliff, white knuckles, on your last breath, and you've got just one last thing to say, like you're a bird flying over us, and you can see everything. And please, for God's sakes, tell us something that will save us from ourselves. Take a deep breath and tell us your deepest, darkest secret, so we can wipe our brow and know that we're not alone. Write like you have a message from the king. Or don't. Who knows? Maybe you're one of the lucky ones who doesn't have to. You are a function of what the whole universe is doing, in the same way that a wave is a function of what the whole ocean is doing. I have realized that the past and future are real illusions, and that they exist in the present, which is what there is and all there is. Jesus Christ knew he was God, so wake up and find out eventually who you really are. In our culture, of course, they'll say you're crazy and you're blasphemous, and they'll either put you in jail or in a nut house, which is pretty much the same thing. However, if you wake up in India and tell your friends and relations, "My goodness, I've just discovered that I'm God," they'll laugh and say, "Oh, congratulations, at last you found out." Through our eyes, the universe is perceiving itself. Through our ears, the universe is listening to its harmonies. We are the witness through which the universe becomes conscious of its glory, of its magnificence. The art of living is neither careless drifting on the one hand, nor fearful clinging to the past on the other. It consists in being sensitive to each moment, in regarding it as utterly new and unique, in having the mind open and wholly receptive. The more a thing tends to be permanent, the more it tends to be lifeless. Try to imagine what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Now try to imagine what it was like to wake up, having never gone to sleep. Every intelligent individual wants to know what makes him tick, and yet is at once fascinated and frustrated by the fact that oneself is the most difficult of all things to know. A scholar tries to learn something every day. A student of Buddhism tries to unlearn something daily. Things are as they are. Looking out into the universe at night, we make no comparisons between right and wrong stars, nor between well and badly arranged constellations. Problems that remain persistently insoluble should always be suspected as questions asked in the wrong way. It's like you took a bottle of ink and you threw it at a wall. Smash. And all that ink spread. And in the middle, it's dense, isn't it? And as it gets out on the edge, the little droplets get finer and finer and make more complicated patterns, see? So in the same way, there was a big bang at the beginning of things, and it spread. And you and I, sitting here in this room, as complicated human beings, are way, way out on the fringe of that bang. We are the complicated little patterns on the end of it. Very interesting. But so we define ourselves as being only that. If you think that you are only inside your skin, you define yourself as one very complicated little curlicue, way out on the edge of that explosion. Way out in space and way out in time. Billions of years ago, you were a big bang, but now you're a complicated human being. And then we cut ourselves off and don't feel that we're still the big bang. But you are. Depends how you define yourself. You are actually, if this is the way things started, if there was a Big Bang in the beginning, you're not only something that's a result of the Big Bang, you're not something that is a sort of puppet on the end of the process. You are still the process. You are the Big Bang, the original force of the universe, coming on as whoever you are. When I meet you, I see not just what you define yourself as, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. I see every one of you as the primordial energy of the universe coming on at me in this particular way. I know I'm that too, but we learn to define ourselves as separate from it. Tomorrow and plans for tomorrow can have no significance at all unless you are in full contact with the reality of the present. Since it is in the present, and only in the present, that you live, there is no other reality other than present reality, so that even if one were to live for endless ages, to live for the future would be to miss the point everlastingly. Life is like music for its own sake. We are living in an eternal now, and when we listen to music, we are not listening to the past. We are not listening to the future. We are listening to an expanding present. Never pretend to love what you do not actually feel, for love is not ours to command. We are living in a culture entirely hypnotized by the illusion of time, in which the so-called present moment is felt as nothing but an infinitesimal hairline between an all-powerfully causative past and an absorbingly important future. We have no present. Our consciousness is almost completely preoccupied with memory and expectation. We do not realize that there never was, is, nor will be any other experience than present experience. We are therefore out of touch with reality. We confuse the world as talked about, described, and measured with the world which actually is. We are sick with a fascination for the useful tools of names and numbers, of symbols, signs, conceptions, and ideas. Zen does not confuse spirituality with thinking about God while one is peeling potatoes. Zen spirituality is just to peel the potatoes. When we attempt to exercise power or control over someone, we cannot avoid giving that person the very same power or control over us. What we have forgotten is that thoughts and words are conventions, and that it is fatal to take conventions too seriously. A convention is a social convenience, as for example, money. But it is absurd to take money too seriously, to confuse it with real wealth. In somewhat the same way, thoughts, ideas, and words are coins for real things.